Hi, ninth graders. This is Miss Stapp, and my first video was over your reflections. So you've already done that, and now you're moving along to the rest of the tasks for the day. As you can see, I am in my notebook, and I'm in the textbook portion, which you will find, let me show you where that is, under podcast and B1. We already did that reflection, which was your warm-up, and the ATL for today is collect and analyze data in order to make informed decisions. And we already started that in A, and we're moving along with that idea in B in order to create our specification. So what we're going to work on today is write clear research-based specifications. Here we go. Okay. Let me scroll down so you can see what I'm seeing. And again, remember that when you move to your formative tab to do these tasks, you won't have all of the notes like you do here in the textbook. So some students get confused when they look in their formative tab because it's kind of a worksheet, and that's what you consider that, your workbook, whereas the full notes and the teacher notes are in the textbook portion under podcast, content library, B1. Okay, clear and research-based specification. Your specification is a list of criteria for product success, and it is based on your research. They should be clear. So make sure that you're not getting carried away with vocabulary and sentence structure. Make them as clear as possible, as if you're telling somebody next to you exactly what the criteria is. That's how you want it to be. So again, moving away from really English writing and more about that engineering writing, very concise and very clear, even if it's repetitive. Your research should show up in each one of these criteria, and that's what we worked on last unit. We will be continuing that today, but we're also going to include the whys that you find in your research. So let me give you an example. The color scheme will be based on blue and red. Okay, that tells you what? As those are the most popular seen in my questionnaire. Oh, very good. Okay, so we got that why, and we also were specific about the kind of research. I would like you to include that in your criteria today as well. Okay? Your specifications have to include the critical requirements necessary for your product to be successful. Name the research. So you can say that it is secondary research found on the internet. That is a great way to talk about those things that you went out and researched. You can mention articles. You can say you can even mention that credible organization if that helps you. Now, if it's primary research, you don't have to state that it's primary research, but I would like to know what kind of research it is. For instance, if it was a survey, say survey. It was an interview, state that it was an interview. If it was from your user observation field test, state that as well. The next thing that has to be, and I will state this again and again, one of these criteria has to be about the constraint. You do have one constraint, and that is the due date. Okay. You could add another constraint, which is, I'm going to add this here, that we are using anchor. Okay. That is not specified by the client. That is specified by me. You can, but you do not have to have that in your criteria. Now, one thing that I have changed that I think will make this not as repetitive and cut out a few words for you, and I like how this reads, I always look at engineers and how they create their criteria. And I saw that sometimes they create tables like this, and instead of stating their product name over and over again with each of these criteria, sometimes they will just put it at the top of the table, just like this, the Snappy Podcast. And then each one of your criteria below completes that statement. So I would like to incorporate this kind of table, okay, where at the very top I've put state the name of your podcast and you put your podcast right there. All right. So that is going to be your product name at the top. And as you know, our criteria is very formulaic. So we use the words will, must, or may to designate whether it's something that has to happen based on our research or that may happen because it's not essential to success, but it would be really nice. Okay? Now, if it has to happen, we'll use will or must, and you can see I've used it before below. The Snappy Salad Podcast will. This has to happen in order for this podcast to be successful. The Snappy Podcast will include an identifying music intro. That's the critical thing needed to make my podcast successful based on my research. We'll include an identifying music intro based on our survey and research of existing podcasts. There were 2 places I found that this is critical, and I stated them both here. Which revealed that, and this is the because, which revealed that consistent intro music engages listeners and helps them identify preferred podcasts. That is what my research revealed. And that is a new addition to the specifications in this unit. I didn't require that last unit. You did it, and I gave you thumbs up, I think, if you did. Now this unit, you have to say why. What was revealed in your research that proved this? Okay. For my second example here, this was a may. So do you remember that may refers to it's not essential, but desirable? Again, you've got the product name, the Snappy Salad Podcast up there at the top of my table, may include interviews with salad enthusiasts. That's the critical thing. Might include interviews with salad enthusiasts based on existing product research. So I did existing product research, and my search revealed the top 10 takeaways, one of which was recorded interviews with salad celebrities are more engaging than hearing stories about salad celebrities. That's what I thought by listening to my 3 interviews. I took that away, and I've decided that is something that is desirable. All right. Now, what you're going to have to do in order to create these criteria is access your 10 takeaways from your analysis of existing products and get your research questions. So when you go to your personal tab, and I'll show you what that looks like, and you pull this up, you're going to see where I remind you to do those 2 things. Here we go. Okay. What were your top 10 takeaways from existing product analysis? Put those there. Research questions. Drop your table here. Now, as I told you before, if you do not already have your answers to your research questions, that is okay, but you need to work on them today. Okay? Now is the time when you should be getting those answers. And as you can see, I dropped my table in. I already had my answers here. Okay, I have the priority of what these research questions were. Those research questions that are prioritized at the very top of your list should definitely be in your criteria. Okay. Again, if you didn't find your answers already, you need to be working on that and adding those today. From my top 10 takeaway and those questions I came up with based on Access FM that represent a very well-rounded and multi-dimensional view of my product, I'm going to come up with 10 criteria, 10 important things that need to happen. One of these has to be the due date. The rest, again, look back at the research you have done and your top 10 takeaway and pick essential. You can definitely have more than 10 criteria here. Be very clear about what it is that needs to happen and why it's important in your statements. Okay? And the last thing I need you to think of here as you're doing this is that you're thinking of your product as again, in a multidimensional view. If you look at your criteria and they are all about topic, that is not it. You have to have some about content, which is your topic. You should have some about production. Things like, how am I going to get this and record and put it onto Anchor? Okay. And there has to be that one that is on the due date. All right. That's what I need you to think about today. What is due is as much work as you can get done on this page. This page is where you drop your top 10 takeaways, your research table with answers, and begin working on your criteria in the correct format with the name of your podcast at the top of the table, and then your criteria with that will, must, or may, okay, depending on whether it's desirable or essential, where you identify the thing that needs to happen in order for it to be successful, the research that it came from, and why it's important. Okay. Upload all of this, upload a screenshot of all of this to ManageBack for credit for the day. Work for an hour and a half. You do not need to have the whole thing done, but I will give you feedback, and the more you get done on this, the less you will have to do for your summative preparation. So, as much as you can done today, and I will give you feedback. That's your assignment for the day, and I look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday. Let me know if you have questions.